Well, Tioga State Bank is located in the southern tier of New York, and we're kind of halfway between New York City and halfway between Buffalo, kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's a beautiful area. We have a lot of rolling hills, very rural. The trees here are spectacular in the fall when the leaves are changing. My family has been living in Tioga County for about 8 generations. The bank was started in 1884 by my great-great-grandfather, M.D. Fisher. The bank was originally called the Farmers and Merchants Bank of Spencer, New York. So when my grandfather started the bank, he had a number of other businesses in the community, including a dry goods store. So we have here is an early advertisement. So these are my great-great-grandfather's initials, M.D. Fisher. He put this on the wall in 1877, so it would have been before the bank was even founded. Rumor has it he had the dry goods store, but he started the bank because he was tired of getting paid in chickens and wanted to get paid in cash. My parents live right down the street from the bank in Spencer, New York. They're about 10 to 12 houses down from where our main office is in Spencer. And my grandparents lived even closer. They were probably about 7 or 8 houses from the bank on Main Street. 5 generations of my family have been running the bank, and it's kind of neat that we've been here for 5 generations. I'm not sure how many families have a 5-generational business. My journey was a little convoluted because growing up, if you'd asked me in high school or college, I would have sworn I was never coming back to Spencer, New York. That was never part of my game plan. I grew up with the dream of becoming a pilot. I've always had a love of flying and aviation. I mean, I loved the Air Force. I had a great time flying. I got married to my wife, who we'd met in college, but we got married when I was in the Air Force. We both decided that, to start a family, it was probably a kind of a good opportunity to look at coming back to my hometown and starting at the bank and starting a career here. I love to go fast. I have a few fast cars that I enjoy driving. I've always had that need for speed. In fact, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. My first car that I purchased was a 1995 Porsche 911. We're about 45 minutes from Watkins Glen, New York, which is one of the most fantastic tracks in the country. Driving on a track is just it's fun, it's exciting, it gets your blood pressure up and just your adrenaline going. So as a navigator in the Air Force, I always had to be prepared for all possibilities. To have maps to go to alternate air bases, to land if there was an emergency. I had to be thinking 2 to 3 steps ahead before I was making a turn. Having that ability as a community bank, we're small, we're agile, and I think that really helped us with PPP. It helped businesses in our community to get needed money, needed funds, that lifeline that they needed. As a small community bank, we could make those changes at a moment's notice and help our customers.
Thank you for calling Tioga State Bank. This is Judy. How can I help you today?
Community banking, our business models are completely different than the big bank model. Big banks are all about transactional volumes and customers as numbers. They don't have those deepened relationships that community banks have. Community banks, we are committed to our customers, committed to our communities, and that's why, hence the name community banks. The relationships that we form with our customers, those customers, they're not just customers, they're friends, they're family, they're neighbors. It's great to have that connection, to see them in church, see them when I'm at the store. It's just a unique feeling. I love going to visit our business customers and see the many unique things and unique business lines that they've found to make money. And it's fantastic to go visit these customers and they're all so proud of their businesses. I love the idea of community banking because we take local deposits and we reinvest those dollars back into loans in our local community. It's tremendous to see that recycling of the money and helping to help our community grow and become a better place. ICBA is a tremendous support for community banks. Just like community banks are caretakers of our community, ICBA is the caretaker of community banks. They help make our lives better. They help us with advocacy, education, and innovation. And those things are all critically important for us. Our mission statement is to create and promote an environment where community banks flourish. I'm really excited to start my year as ICBA chairman. And some of the things that I'd like to encourage other bankers to participate in One big thing is financial literacy. It's so critical to help children understand the need for basic financial literacy in this country. Our bank, we go out into our schools every year and help do some high school education to help kids understand how to balance a checkbook, the importance of maintaining a credit score, keeping your credit score high. So I'd really like to encourage other bankers to carry on this. I mean, I think there's some tremendous things that are happening out there with financial literacy, but I'd like to encourage us to even step up our game and do more. Financial innovation is so critical to community banking. I've been part of the ICBA Think Tech Accelerator program for the last year. It's just a fantastic program. They're trying to help us develop high-tech, but also high-touch relationships with our customers. We need to continue to look at other ways to adapt that technology to stay on that cutting edge. Another priority that I have while I'm chair of ICBA is to continue our fight against the credit union industry. For me, this is a multi-generational battle. My dad actually brought one of the first lawsuits against the credit union industry back in the early 1980s. It was on the shared draft accounts, and credit unions were able to pay interest on checking accounts while banks were not. So ICBA instituted the Wake Up campaign to help raise awareness and help educate both consumers and lawmakers on the inequity that is currently out there between community banks and credit unions. ICBA even started a credit union task force internally to help with this fight and help to, come up with some new techniques and tactics. Because this is a battle that's been going on my entire banking career. We need to continue the fight though, so that, banks across the country can have a better shot at competing fairly with credit unions. None of us fear competition. If you give us a level playing field, we'll fight all day and win. Another priority that I have as chairman this year is to get better member engagement. I think if our members are engaged and passionate about some of these fights, we will prevail. When you're fighting on behalf of a great mission, it's hard to lose. I'd like to focus on some of a common sense tiered regulatory framework for community banks. We are relationship driven. We are focused on helping our communities, and having a bifurcated regulatory system that addresses how we do business would just be so helpful to help us focus on our mission of serving customers with relationship-based, products and services. Having a risk-based approach to tiered regulations that are more common sense would help all of us in our daily lives and focus more on the business at hand of helping our communities, helping our customers. I'm really excited to come into the chair of ICBA. I'm humbled, I am honored to be able to serve the greatest industry in this country. Never in my wildest dreams did I ever think that I would be sitting here today as I'm heading into the chair of ICBA. That was never part of my game plan. It's fantastic, and I'm just really excited to have this opportunity to serve and to help community banks from around this great nation. We have such a unique industry, and it's just so exciting to be able to help community banks and to help push the organization as we go forward.
Please join me in welcoming ICBA's incoming chairman, Bob Fisher. Yay.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Hopefully I'm going to channel my inner Vin today, but I am so glad to be here.
Noah, thank you again for your incredible service over the last year.
Rebecca, it has been a true labor of love, the highlight of my career, and a humbling honor. And I'm proud to continue my service this year as ICBA's immediate past chairman, working alongside a man I admire so much, your incoming chairman, Bob Fisher.
Well, thank you, Noah. And if we were in Hawaii as we had originally planned, I'd have the honor to stand on stage with you and extend my hand in service, or extend my hand in friendship and thank you for your service this year and the many sacrifices that were required to fulfill your duty as ICBA's chairman. And while circumstances required altering those plans, we still want to present you with an acknowledgement and recognition of your work on this year on behalf of our industry.
So Noah, you should have received something in the mail from ICBA, maybe?
I have, and it's been staring me in the face all week long, but I was given explicit instructions, enforced by my wonderful wife, Julie, that under no circumstances whatsoever was I allowed to open it.
Well, perfect. A shout out and a thanks to Julie. So why don't you go ahead and open and share it now?
This is what's been staring me in the face all week.
Okay, don't knock over that guitar as you're opening it, okay?
And we don't need to do that twice today. It survived the
Thank goodness.
Oh, wow. I'm doing it as quickly as I can, but it's well packaged. Outstanding. That is wonderful. Well, thank you, Rebecca and Bob, and thanks to all of the leadership bankers with whom I've had the pleasure to serve. I look forward to continuing our efforts and to working with more of my banking colleagues to support our industry. And to our first-time attendees, I truly hope your experience at ICBA Connect will inspire you to seek out more opportunities to be engaged with ICBA and to further amplify our collective power. Rebecca, the floor is yours.
Thank you again, Noah. Boy, you are a tough act to follow, but I have no doubt that Bob will be an excellent successor, helping to build upon your work as others and as a spokesperson for our industry. Like you, Bob has a long history of community bank activism and has testified before Congress speaking out against the excessive and unnecessary regulatory burdens that you face every day. Bob has dedicated an extraordinary amount of personal time and talent to help community banking thrive. Perhaps it's because he was exposed to the world of banking at a very young age. I understand his first convention was in Hawaii when he was just 8 years old. Let's take a minute to learn more about that and his personal journey to becoming a community banker and advocate for our industry. So Bob, this convention in Hawaii feels a bit like coming full circle. Can you share with the audience what that means?
Well, I was really hoping it was going to be first full circle and we would have been back in Hawaii this year, but obviously circumstances changed that. But, you know, in 1976, my grandfather took our entire family to Hawaii for 2 weeks. And as a third grader, you know, that was an amazing trip, especially being out of school for 2 weeks. So I have so many fond memories of that Hawaii trip. I have to say, I don't have as many memories of convention, but it could be because my dad is what, you know, many community bankers, we might say that they are thrifty. So I think he may not have actually registered us for the actual convention, but you know, 45 years later, I'm here today. We're virtually connected, and this has been just a fantastic, you know, event that we've hosted.
So true, and wish we could all be in person in Hawaii, but just so excited to see you take the virtual stage today. You know, Bob, in your video, you talked about how your professional dream was to become a fighter pilot, and today you're a proud community banker. How did your dream evolve?
I think it all started as a very young boy. My dad took me to a air show, and from that moment on, I was all about all things aviation. I collected airplanes, I drew airplanes, I wanted to be a pilot. That was truly what I wanted to do. So to pursue that goal, I accepted an Air Force ROTC scholarship to attend college. Unfortunately, physics and I had a bit of a disagreement in college, so I changed majors. Luckily, I changed to a finance major, but I also found out during that conversion of majors that I lacked 20/20 vision, which automatically eliminated me from becoming a pilot. So the Air Force was still kind enough to let me fly, but as a navigator is said. So my dad always said I had an open invitation to return back to the family business, and Beth and I decided it was a great opportunity to start a family, raise a family. And I think sometimes, you know, youth and maybe even a lack of 20/20 vision prevents us from seeing what's right in front of us. And looking back 28 years later, it's one of the best decisions that I've ever made in my life. I love going to work every day. I love what I do in my community, and I love seeing the impact that community banks have on their communities.
I love that. And there's something in there, something about not having 2020 vision being a good thing, especially as we've just gotten through 2020 in the year that it was. Bob, I was really struck by your statement in the video that never in your wildest dreams did you think you'd be here. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, I think, when I came back to the bank, obviously I had leadership aspirations at the bank. I never really had aspirations for leadership positions outside of the bank. And although they seem to have found me over the years, I've always considered advocacy to be part of my job to protect the franchise value of our business. And so I really enjoy advocacy. I love getting out and talking and advocating on behalf of our industry, and seeing the positive impact that we can make for other community banks. That's really what's driven me. When I first started with our state association, Independent Bankers of New York State, have to give them a shout out. I was pulled aside going into one of our annual meetings, and the director of our association pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Bob, how about you be treasurer this year?" And so we went into the annual meeting, and I was elected treasurer right there. And so that kind of started my journey down this road that's led to where I stand today. And it is something that I didn't anticipate, but I truly love ICBA. I love community banks. I love what we represent. So I encourage everybody that's out there, especially we have so many first-time attendees this year, get involved, get engaged, and we can certainly move the needle. And these connections and the support around me have helped me get to where I am today. And so I encourage you, obviously, get connected. But I do need to thank a few people. I need to thank my board of directors for allowing me to have the freedom to participate and volunteer with ICBA. I have to thank my senior management team. They allow me the freedom to get out of the bank and also participate while they run the day-to-day operations of the bank. I also would like to thank my family, and most of all, my wife, Beth. She is definitely my rock, my foundation, and she keeps everything together so we can take this journey with ICBA.
With a shout out and a huge thank you to Beth for being a part of this journey as well. So this morning, Dan Thurman talked a little bit about what he saw in the crystal ball that he juggled there a little bit. Bob, talk to us about how you see the year evolving.
I'm certainly optimistic that during 2021, we get back to some more normalcy. I think we all have COVID fatigue, and we need to get back to handshakes and hugs. That's what we as community bankers thrive on, are those handshakes. And I'm not a hugger, and I'm saying I'm ready for hugs. So, I had a contractor working at our house this summer, and I met his sons for the first time one time when I came home from work, and they both reached out and shook hands. And I have to say that's the first time in my life that I've ever felt awkward shaking somebody's hand. I mean, I was also kind of looking for hand sanitizer afterwards, but we need to get back to more normalized life, get back to traveling, and get back to those handshake and hugs. I really look forward to that.
Yes, so true. That has to become part of our normal again. So you talked a bit about this, but how do we begin to plan with such uncertainty, with so many unknowns facing us today?
Well, I think after watching Dan, I probably have a different response than what I was thinking prior to this. I think, as I said, plan for the uncertainty. I mean, life is full of uncertainty. So the Air Force taught me to prepare and anticipate many different obstacles that you may encounter. But we have to be open and willing to change as well. So I encourage people to, plan as best you can, but stay connected to other bankers, stay connected to ICBA. It's critical to navigating that uncertainty. So, plan, connect, but be willing to pivot when necessary.
So as we pivot, what past experiences will you lean on as you begin this next year?
I think the biggest experience is to be engaged at work and be engaged at home. We all have so many fantastic stories that need to be shared. We have a new administration, new agency heads, and so some potential headwinds, but with challenges certainly come opportunities. So we need all hands on deck, and let's move forward.
So, really quick last question here. What are you looking forward to the most?
Like Noah, I can't wait to get back out on the road and travel and be out there with the greatest community bankers from around this country. It's what I've enjoyed the most during my 10 years so far.
Oh, fantastic. Well, really looking forward to that as well. And Bob, it's talking about traveling across the country. Can I ask you to do your first official act as ICBA chairman? And please introduce your incoming executive committee members.
I am so happy to. Consolidated Holding Chairman, Jack Hardings. Past Chairman, Tim Zimmerman. Past Chairman, Prez Kennedy. Immediate past Chairman, Noah Wilcox. Secretary, Tim Aiken. Treasurer, Greg Deckard. ICBA President and CEO, Rebecca Romero Rainey. Vice Chairman, Russell Lafitte. Chairman-elect, Brad Bolton. And finally, me, Bob Fisher, as your chairman. I look forward to working with all of you in this coming year.